Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Now let's shift gears and move over to my friend, the mayor of the city of Pascagoula, the mayor, Jay Willis. Dr. Jay Willis, he was a retired dentist and did a lot of work in that. He's actually an entrepreneur. But like so many other mayors in Mississippi or South Mississippi, he didn't need this job, but he chose to do this so he could give back to his wonderful community. So, Jay, it's been a while. It's great to have you back.
Thank you so much, Ricky. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to visiting with you today.
Listen, there's been some element of Pascagoula in so many conversations that I've had when Jackson County comes up. I mean, in so many different dimensions. What is happening in downtown Pascagoula is notable, but it's not just about what's happening in downtown Pascagoula. You have to be pretty pleased with the progress you're making.
I could not be more proud than what has occurred here in Pascagoula. We have unprecedented growth, unprecedented investment. The people seem to be so appreciative of all the things that are happening in Pascagoula. Just this week, or last week, we found that Nukes has announced that they're going to have a spot and want to schedule a grand opening and ribbon cutting. And 5 years ago, if you had told me that we were going to be having a Starbucks, a Nukes, and Chandelier Brewing Company's second location in Pascagoula, I'm not sure I would have believed you.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Joe Cloyd, that's involved in that effort, has been on the show before, and we've talked a little bit about it. He's a friend. But he's just an example of the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that is thriving in Pascagoula right now. You know, you're providing the sort of the ramp for them by having a historic district and all that you've done to try to help move things along and have a vision for the downtown area. And then the private investment has followed, and that's been something to watch, hasn't it?
It truly has. We had no residential living downtown Pascagoula until the effort started. And now we have 75 apartments available, all of them full. And it's just an amazing thing to see. And we're moving beyond downtown. That's the important thing for the future. We have an area of town out east in the area of Chico Street, Automobile Highway, that has needed to be lifted. And we're starting with the construction. We're going out for bids for the construction of a police substation on the corner of those two streets that we believe is going to be the next big thing, the foothold to developing that area and bringing it back to where it was all those years ago.
Well, you know what's interesting is for a long period of time, and this was true when I was publisher of the Sun Herald, and it dates back a long way, that there was a move for people who work at some of the major industries in the Pascagoula area, Chevron, Ingalls, and so on, to live way out into the boonies. And some of them would actually go into another county. Of course, many of them going over into Mobile County and so on. And what you've seen, it seems to me to be a kind of a natural evolution where you're seeing people who are wanting to move closer to where they work, especially the young people. It's great to see that new revolution start to happen, isn't it?
It really is. One of those exciting parts of that story, Ricky, is that we are seeing housing construction in Pascagoula that we haven't had in decades. We have a large piece of property ready for development, and we're in conversations with developers about coming in and building probably 40 houses, all priced perfectly for first-time homeowners. And so many young people who grew up here and went off thinking the grass was greener somewhere else are moving back to Pascagoula to raise their families. And Pascagoula is all about families and home, and we couldn't be more pleased.
Well, one of the frustrating things, and I don't know if you can, I didn't mention this to you, but maybe you can give me an update. Something the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation has been working on in Florida and Alabama and Louisiana and Texas have been part of these conversations. But it was the Federal Flood Insurance Program 2.0, and how it just absolutely created so many challenges for a town like Pascagoula. because of the 50% rule. And without getting into all of this, it made it very difficult to renovate homes or to really foster growth in your city. Has there been any news about that effort?
It's still ongoing. We're in almost constant contact and conversation with our legislative delegation in Washington, D.C. It's all about FEMA and the flood maps. And a year ago, it's been a full year since the new flood maps for the coast were presented to FEMA. And apparently they've been just sitting on somebody's desk up there. And Mike Ezel is instrumental in continuing to push that effort to say we need to get this going. Roger Wicker and Cindy Hyde-Smith all have just been good friends, and we believe that we're turning the corner on the flood insurance issues and the construction with the newer elevations that are more appropriate.
And let me add to this, and man, I think this is really important. I had Cindy Hyde-Smith incidentally on recently, and she has a really special place in her heart for coastal Mississippi and thinks one day she actually will retire here. So she watches the real estate market. She told me a story about driving down Highway 90 with Donald Trump and talking about specific pieces of property as she talked about what each of them was worth and so on. It was a dynamic conversation. So he's aware and he's been here and knows the problem. But, you think about the new Attorney General, you think about our Secretary of State now, Marco Rubio, who was a leader in the Florida conversations related to how the flood insurance programs were creating significant problems. Then, of course, our delegation coming together around that as well. But, hey, just in a nutshell, one aspect of this that's important for people who have not heard this conversation before, if you were here after Katrina and you had less than 50% damage, you were able to rebuild, and you were what's called grandfathered into the program. But what happened in towns like Pascagoula, where the flood insurance, where the flood maps basically required a humongous majority of the city to now be raised. If you were doing renovations on a house, even today, that's more than 50% of the value of the house, then you have to raise the house. It made it so that homes were literally sitting vacant. And we've got to fix that. I think with all these people now in the president's ear and all the conversations around FEMA, I bet we find a resolution about it. Maybe it's an administrative resolution, frankly, that can help, maybe free the logjam here.
We're going to have to see something like that to get things going, to turn the corner. We believe we're right there, and we're not letting up. We're continuing the conversation, and I really believe that we're making progress and going to get there.
Well, one of the I've used my own case as an example. We built here, we live on the water, but where we built, we're 5.1 feet above the ABFB requirement. So we didn't need flood insurance. We got flood insurance, but we didn't need flood insurance. When the new federal flood insurance program 2.0 came out, it was based on proximity to water, not height to water. Right. And so they developed a target for my house, and they're going to go up every year until they reach that target. And what's happening across coastal Mississippi right now, as people begin to take on that burden, on an annual raise scenario, they don't feel it as much. But over time, they will get there. If they ever drop their flood insurance, or if they buy a new home, they go immediately to whatever the target rate is. It is a flawed system, man. And hopefully, eventually, we can get some resolution. I know it's had a tremendous impact on a place like Pascagoula. Yeah.
We're hearing it all the time, exactly what you described, Ricky.
Yeah, it's not good. And every community is facing that today, every single community. And Here's the other thing, that over 90% of counties in America had some type of federal emergency disaster declaration, whether it be a tornado or a drought scenario or flooding or hurricane or earthquake or burns or you name it. I think the other thing that's going to happen is that we're going to move more toward maybe a federal catastrophic backstop of some sort, so that we and before insurance companies really didn't support that, according to my friend Frank Bordeaux, who has been on the show many times, that the reinsurance companies and the insurance companies are beginning to think maybe that's not such a bad idea. So hopefully we can get to some resolution before it's over with. Best way to do it is just keep our our delegation, focus, because there's a lot of noise to keep their attention off this really critical issue.
And I think with the new administration, that it's going to be discussed. I really believe that's the solution. It's just a matter of getting there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm with you there completely. So we only got like a minute or so left in this segment. We'll come back on the other side in here in just a second. But, aside from the growth around residential and what's happening downtown, in fact, we're under a minute now. So what we'll do is we'll come back on the other side, and I'll find out what else is on your mind today. What are you most proud of, and what are some of the challenges you still face as we continue our conversation with the Mayor of Pascagoula, Jay Willis. We'll see you after this. Back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I was mentioning to the Mayor of Pascagoula, Jay Willis, during the break that it's good to have that conversation about the flood insurance program. We got to keep it on the front burner, and there's a lot of noise in Washington right now. But this is one that I think they'll get focused on, as the governors are heavily engaged right now in discussions around the FEMA program in general. And this has got to be a big part of their talking points, I'm sure, of things that need to be decided. So, Jay, if you think about what else is going on in the city, what in terms of progress and what you're proud of, what you thinking these days?
Well, riding down Highway 90, coming into the city from the west across the high-rise bridge, we have a new development where the old Ice House project was that we're really proud of. The Nico brothers and other investors acquired that property a couple of years ago, I guess, and now it is shovel ready. They are out for finding tenants and exciting things happening right there. That's going to be a significant investment in the community. We have a new shopping area further down where an old flea market eyesore property had existed for decades. And investors from Chattanooga came in and said, we've got some stores that really would like to locate in Pascagoula. And we looked around and said, well, gosh, that's great. Let's get it going. And Aldi, TJ Maxx, Burlington Coat, Rack Room Shoes, just really good stuff happening out there in that one location. And we believe that's just the start as we continue to develop Pascagoula and bring more outside investment in.
So what do you see as challenges going forward? What's on your list of things you want to really focus on?
Well, one of the things I see with other communities who have the kind of growth that we're experiencing is in being able to control that growth, to be able to have a hand in what happens, where it happens, and to have the correct zoning in place and controls for our city to grow and develop without losing its culture or character. And that's a constant thing on our mind, is how we do that and how we do encourage people to come, but the right people and doing the right things.
Yeah, it's every community in the United States deals with that, and for coastal Mississippi, it's a good challenge to have at the end of the day, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. Absolutely. We feel quite blessed, and everything's moving along. We're still all rowing in the same direction at the City Hall. It's an amazing group that we have, and we work well with Paige and the Chamber of Commerce. We work well with George and Mary Martha at the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation. Our Board of Supervisors supports us quite well in most of the things that we are trying to do and need to do. The Port of Pascagoula is doing great things. We have a new director, Bo Etheridge, who's probably finishing up his first or maybe second year here. And Bo has amazing energy. I love the work that they're doing and what they are going to do for the Port of Pascagoula, which many times people don't even realize we have a very active port. But the potential for Pascagoula Port, the Port of Pascagoula, to grow into a global entity is right there. And Bo is leading the way.
It is. I gotta get him on my show. That's a good reminder. I appreciate you mentioning that. So somebody suggested him, and we've got to reach out to Bo and have him come on and share his enthusiasm for the port, because it is a really important part of the overall economic conversation for coastal Mississippi, isn't it?
It really is, not only with the industries we already have here and the requirements they have for port activities, and but the our access and closeness to deep water. We have such a very, very great location on the coast to be into the channels and out to the sea buoy very, very quickly, quicker than most other ports around, and certainly should be competing with people like New Orleans for the huge port activity that they have, where people have to go 100 miles upriver to get to the port of New Orleans. We're right here. We're sitting on the Gulf.
When you fish offshore, which I do a lot, and you fish off of, say, Horn Island and Petty Boyce Island, and you really get to kind of take in the amount of ship traffic that comes into Pascagoula, it is extraordinary, man. I mean, Chevron alone, the activity around that it's truly incredible, with the super tankers coming and downloading to these other, transporting ships, and the amount of oil that's coming. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It truly is amazing. And you mentioned recreational boating. Our next big project in Pascagoula is going to be the development of a municipal marina. We're the only town on the coast that doesn't have a municipal marina of any size. And we have the perfect location. We've had it for years. We just haven't had any money to be able to develop it. But we have a plan that's ready to go forward, and we have an investor who wants to put in a beautiful dry stack for storage of boats and activity right there on the river, just north of the bridge. It's going to be a great place.
It's going to be super popular because, as you pointed out, it's super fast access to the fishing waters.
Right.
That's going to be awesome. Hey, Mayor, I wish we had more time, but we'll get you back on soon. Thank you for the update. I really appreciate your time.
Ricky, it's been great. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. This has been Mayor Jay Willis of the city of Pascagoula. Listen, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.